Hello everyone, this is Barb Gleim from the 199th District. I have the distinct honor and privilege to be with Secretary Redding today, and I get to ask him some questions for everyone and the people back home.
Yeah.
So,
well, great to see you. Welcome. The honor's
you.
mine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am a farmer
Yes.
in Cumberland County. We raise beef, so I do have a little more knowledge on the beef side of things, but my first question is actually about the dairy farmers.
Yeah.
We all know that they are struggling right now. There seems to be a milk glut and the prices are low. What do you think are the best solutions for dairy farmers in Pennsylvania right now?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, and we spent a lot of time the last couple of years sort of worrying about it, thinking about it. Every third conversation here at the farm show is about dairy, either from the producer or the industry that supports it, right? So it's incredibly important to us. 2 years ago, we asked several economists outside of Pennsylvania to take a look at Pennsylvania and said, look at it objectively and answer a couple of questions. Are we competitive relative to our competitors? That's New York, it's Wisconsin, it's Minnesota, it's Idaho. The answer to that question was yes. The second part, though, is you've got to change. You've got to do something different. Because of the consumption patterns of consumers moving from fluid milk, which we put in our refrigerators, right, and half gallons, they were moving away from fluid to other dairy products, right? So when you look at Pennsylvania's mix of processing, we have a lot of fluid milk processing. We have a little bit of cheese, a little bit of yogurt. So we're putting a real emphasis on, cheese processing, yogurt production, any other value-added processing, quite frankly. Not forgetting about fluid, because we don't want to give up on that.
Right.
I think there's real opportunity there. That was the impetus for the $5 million dairy investment program to the legislature. The first time in the state's history last year. Dedicated dollars out of the Commonwealth Financing Authority to dedicate to dairy research, on product development, marketing, and processing. So it tracked with what the economists sort of looked at Pennsylvania and what they've recommended. We have to continue to work on the federal policy pieces. Our own milk marketing board components are there. But very simply, I say to everybody, the one thing we can do today is to raise the awareness of Pennsylvania milk in the Pennsylvania consumer and the Pennsylvania retailer, right?
Yeah,
it's about consumption.
We are, what, fourth in the nation in milk production?
Fifth, I think, is where,
fourth and fifth. A lot of people don't know that,
right.
that aren't in the farming arena. And I had another question with the dairy. Do you think that the new trade pact with Canada and Mexico will help dairy in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I think there'll be a positive benefit to that. It's been sort of, there's a secondary impact because of New York had some processors that really moved a lot of product into Canada. And what we realized when that provision, Canada made their Class 7 milk and it caused this ripple effect, is that we were a secondary impact to that move. So if that's restored, which under the agreement it should be, that'll pick up, some of those lost markets we had when that Canadian government took their action. So,
right.
Yeah.
I want to move to outside of dairy with my next question. It really has to do with the municipalities and their stormwater management issues that they're having, and they want to, I guess it's kind of like a tax, but charge for stormwater management and MS4, and how that impacts farmers who are struggling. Do you think that there's anything that can be done for farmers who have so much acreage and they're sort of charging per acre with that issue?
Well, I think, and we've watched this very closely, right? And I think it's a little disheartening because of all of that land being groundwater recharge. Right, it's not an impervious surface.
Right.
Right. I think there lies the distinction.
Right.
That I think to be fair, if there are roofs and hard surfaces and stuff, there ought to be some proportionality to that. But you can't just offload that obligation of stormwater management onto folks who are actually recharging the ground.
Right.
Right. And a couple of municipalities around the state have done some interesting things. They're trying. I get their point that they have to find a way to raise some resources to address the issue. I mean, I think that's fair. but hopefully there's some balance in there and recognition that you actually have a lot of open space and land that is not necessarily contributing to the problem, actually helping you,
Helping
right?
the problem, right.
So be sensitive to that.
Right, or offset it somehow.
Or offset it, yeah. I have that conversation, but we have been very concerned about municipalities who just have this blanket statement, and it doesn't seem to appreciate, the open space and recharge as a way to mitigate, some of the stormwater.
Right, and then flowing, again, another question that really has to do with municipalities across the state. Is there anything that we can do in agritourism to make something that is conforms to certain standards across the municipalities for agritourism? Because it seems to be, kind of spotty that this municipality is allowing this with agritourism and this municipality is not. Is there anything that we can do to make that more, standard?
Yeah, we have to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just say, and we bump into it all the time at a couple of different levels. In the Clean and Green program,
Yes.
right? There are provisions for agriculture, and there's been some municipalities which have raised concerns about the preferential tax treatment on land that is used for tourism. It shows up in the preservation program, which I think is even more of a concern than just the general, preferential tax in Clean and Green, because you have a deed restriction that says, hey, thank you for preserving your land, but you're obligated forever.
Right.
Right? So forever needs to have some flexibility to it, right?
Correct.
So if you find an opportunity. So yeah, the short answer is we are looking at that, we're talking about it, we have raised the issue with both the county commissioners for preservation purposes, but also in the Clean and Green preferential tax program. So it's on our list for the next session to address it. We're trying to provide some standard language that we think would address both the concerns of the counties and municipalities, at the same time respect sort of the need and opportunities we see around tourism.
Sure, and we have to grow ag, and this is one of the ways that we can grow ag and diversify. And so anything that you can do in that area, I would be very interested in learning and hearing about. And then the last question I have for you has to do with ag education, which is really a big interest of mine. We have been involved in FFA and 4-H.
Thank you for that.
And yesterday I bought my first swine here at the farm show.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
What are some of the things across the state that we're doing in ag education that you can tell my constituents about?
Well, I'm excited that we have the Commission on Ag Education Excellence, which I think resets the conversation in many ways. We have 150 ag science programs across the state. We're very fortunate. But the number of school districts, that's not every school district. It's not every school. We need to grow the number of ag science. Hang on to what you have, but grow new ones. Very pleased the other day with the FFA convention to have 4 new charters.
Yes.
I think it's a wonderful time. There have been years where we've had no new charters for FFA chapters, so I think that's a good sign. But we need to sort of be mindful that when you look at the needs of agriculture, both in technology, from a land stewardship, from a science standpoint, the foundation of that knowledge is found within our ag science programs and teaching, right?
Yes.
And so if we can't get the formal ag science programs established, making sure we're aware of, from a curriculum standpoint, curriculum that supports that need. And I understand the economics, for some of the school districts, but at the same time, there's always been this sort of struggle with, when you look at the taxation in the farmland and agriculture and business with respect to what we teach, right? There's a little bit of a disconnect in there.
Correct.
So it's on our to-do list. The commission just met last week for the first time. Have a new executive director who's going to be wonderful to work with. It brings education and agriculture together. And as we often say, there's a formal agriculture education. It's the uppercase A and E, there's a lowercase a and e that's equally important.
Correct.
Just so people understand what this business is about. That's what the farm show does.
Right.
Right.
That's what makes this farm show so unique.
Yeah.
In my district, we have the Cumberland Valley FFA, and we have
Great
the
skill.
Big Spring FFA, and I was at the convention as well. So a special shout out to them.
Yeah.
And also just, we've got to also concentrate on preserving the farmer, not just the farmland.
Absolutely.
And so I look forward to working on those issues with you.
Yeah.
But,
You've got a head start, so I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for this interview.
It'd be great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.